Hello everyone and welcome to this second session on reader response theory. In our first lesson, we have looked at the bare nut bolts of the reader response theory. We have looked at the key concepts which make read this theory, and in this session we are going to understand how reader response theory is a part of overarching post-structuralist movement in the domain of literary studies. And another key objective of this session is to start dealing with a few key texts of reader response theory, and we are going to begin with Roland Barthes' Death of the Author. So what is post-structuralism? It's actually a 20th century movement in the philosophy. It draws on the earlier trend, which is called structuralism, and it's closely related to postmodernism. In the post-structuralist approach to textual analysis, which is our concern as students of literature, the reader replaces the author as the primary subject of inquiry. And without a central fixation on the author, post-structuralists examine other sources for meaning. For example, meaning can be located in the readers, in the minds of the readers, in the schema, or the cultural norms, or other literature, or how to identify literature, and things like that, which are therefore never authoritative and promise no consistency. So it hints at intertextuality and multiplicity of meanings. A reader's culture and society then share at least an equal part in the interpretation of a piece to the cultural and societal circumstances of the author. Now, if we look at this comparison between structuralism and post-structuralism, structuralism says that our language is actually a signification system. A sign, it can be divided into two parts, a signifier and the signified. For example, the word tree, either it's a written word or the uttered one, is actually a signifier, and what it signifies, the actual tree which has green leaves, is the signified. So what post-structuralism does is, there isn't any signified, there are only signifiers. We actually operate in the jungle of signifiers. So signifieds are actually hidden in the minds of the interpreters, and in our case, in the minds of the readers. So if you quickly look at this diagram, you see that structuralism draws on anthropology as propounded by Lévi-Strauss, and linguistics as given to us by Ferdinand de Saussure. So they search for the underlying scientific objective structure of the phenomenon. But in post-structuralism, there is no fixed structure, because we haven't got any signified, there isn't any external signified. Whatever we have is actually just the signifiers, the jungle of words. So post-structuralism basically draws on the German philosopher Nietzsche, and there is French philosopher Foucault, there is Deleuze, and Derrida with his deconstructive ammunition. So now come back to Roland Barthes, one of the key contributors to this sort of thinking about text and reading. Roland Barthes is a French literary theorist, and he has written a key, one of the important formulations about reader response theory, and it's actually an essay. It's called Death of the Author. So what is it about? In this essay, what he is trying to do is, he destabilizes the source or the center of meaning. He says that there isn't any single one particular authoritative source of meaning. There can be multiple sources of meaning. and one of the multiple sources would be the reader, because reader actually interacts, the reader actually struggles to make the meaning out of the given text. He allows for the multiplicity of interpretations, and reader is not a single entity. There can be multiple readers. There can be various readers. And everyone, when approaches the text, everyone has their own expectations, their own experience of reading the text, and the cultural norms they bring with them. So all this baggage actually acts as a catalyst between the text and the reader, and the reactions that take place between the text and the reader. So here reader stands for the experience, the expectations, the cultural norms, the notion of reading, and so on and so forth. So out of this reaction among these elements, a meaning or a sort of interpretation emerges for that particular reader. So Roland Barthes says that in the process of reading, it's not the author or the author's intention is important, but it is the reader who is more crucial. And he says birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author. And another interesting concrete point he mentions is that author as a superior authority, the giver of meaning, a godlike entity. So A is always capitalized, but the reader is not capitalized. Reader's R is not capitalized. But he highlights that reader is equally important. And another thing which is important is intertextuality rules the life. That's what he says. Because we just can't create anything. We actually borrow the things from other sources. It can be from it can, for example, it can be from films, or it can be a text written long ago, or it can be the experience of our elders in the family. So all that we gather is actually a text, and that text is actually, no text is original or something, a genuine creation. It's actually a blend of several texts. So therefore he says that intertextuality rules the life. So now the activity that you have to do is, I'll give you a piece of paper which has got some statements, and we have to identify them whether they are true or false with reference to reader response theory. And if there is any question or any doubt that emerges, then we will discuss them as we go along. So thank you very much for watching the screencast.